What is up, guys? How we doing? So, man, I've got some alarming facts about safety in our sport and just the way that MX Sports has treated everybody around the sport, the way they hide it. Feld is included in this too. It's hitting an alarming level, and there's some legislation being passed in Massachusetts. Roger DeCoster has left the Designations team. He has retired, and I have mixed feelings on that. And I got a Loretta Lynn's update. This event, despite all the negative things I say about the money, the safety, I still love this event. It's still really cool, and there's some beautiful things about this event. If you've got some aches and pains, I'm telling you, Nano-Xtreme. This is the best pain solution that I've ever used. Head over to Nano-Xtreme, use code Cooksy, and get free shipping. So Coach Rob, he's got his guys at Loretta Lynn's, and after the first moto, there's been a lot more since this, but he had 2 moto wins, a bunch of top 5s, and some really good performances. Coach Rob's guys are killing it at the ranch. Get your consultation with Coach Rob. Click the link below, get 30 minutes, and I'll tell you what, thank me later, because he will give you so much advice in that 30 minutes that it's going to change your program. So AJ Wright's Crypto and VeChain, they're getting near the end of their Tesla giveaway. And hey, it's not about Tesla. They'll give you $42,000 cash if you're anti-Tesla. It doesn't matter. And if you register, you can win $1,500 in crypto. And if you watch AJ's channel, he'll show you how to turn that into a lot more. And a whole bunch of other stuff. They're always giving away stuff on AJ's channel. So go over there, subscribe, and get free stuff.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So you guys know I am a diehard. I love dirt bikes. I've dedicated my entire life to it. And that's why it pisses me off so bad when I see people exploiting the love that you and I have for this sport for their own financial gain and putting our lives at risk. Seeing Chris Canning hit that tree, which was blatant negligence from the track crew. Come on, you can't have a tree. This is not GNCC. That's not part of the track. That's not an accepted risk to hit a tree. It's just not. It's not like a rock or a rut. And he was still on the track. Had he not hit the tree, he would have landed still on the track. It's dangerous. It was stupid. It was negligent. And they're very fortunate that it's Chris Canning, who has some ties to the Southwick National, so they can blackmail him and keep him from going with a lawsuit. If that was anyone else, they'd probably sue. But they know, if Chris Canning were to sue, they'd probably take the Southwick National. It's so important to those people up there. That's the blackmail and the dirty, rotten dealings that MX Sports has done. And while it's an amateur race, and if they want to charge a lot of money and you guys keep paying it to go, it is what it is. I don't like it, but at least offer a safe track to ride on. And typically in a situation like this, the AMA would step in and say, hey, you can't do that, MX Sports. The problem is the AMA is MX Sports right now. Essentially, the AMA and MX Sports have partnered. They're not actually the same business, but they've sheltered together, and I guarantee the way they're using the nonprofits is completely illegal. The AMA is not what it was originally designed for. It was designed to protect riders' rights. They had lobbyists, they had all sorts of stuff. They spent $0 lobbying. What do they do then? What is the AMA if they're not protecting our rights and fighting for us? They're essentially a promoter's protection. They're not a racers, riders protection. The AMA quietly switched from helping riders and racers to helping promoters be profitable. That's all they did. So the other day I mentioned Colby's Law. This is something that's it's more than likely going to pass in Massachusetts. They have reached out to me for my support, and I said, I don't really want to support anything government. I don't want government regulating anything. But at this point, I'm like, well, maybe that's the best option. Because we have these people who are supposed to represent us in the AMA and the promoters and try and protect us from stuff like this. They're the ones committing the crimes. They're the ones doing the bad stuff. What do we do at that point? Maybe we do need legislation. And that pains me to say that. But track owners, please look at this bill. Because if this passes in Massachusetts, it's probably going to pass everywhere. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. There's a few things that I wrote here that I need changed. You can't have the track one. If you take a look here, I highlighted some stuff that I think needs to be changed in this bill. Track owners, please weigh in on this. Jump in the comments. I'm going to share this information and try and get this bill to a manageable to where it will actually help tracks, not hurt tracks. I want to know if passing this bill will get you cheaper insurance. There's got to be some benefits to it, or I don't want them regulating our sport. It's dangerous, and anytime you involve the government, it's risky, and I don't like it. But the problem is This sport, and we don't hear about it because they cover it up. They blatantly cover up all the injuries. They don't, like at Washougal, they banned Slowey because he showed the actual accident that happened. And they don't want people to know this is possible. This hurts their bottom line. They're worried that moms and dads and families are going to be like, dude, this sport's crazy. I wouldn't do that. Look at the odds. If you guys are familiar with college football and the history of college football, in the early 1900s, when they first started playing, they had no regulations. They didn't wear helmets. It was crazy. They injured and killed a lot of players. It was bad. It was so bad, Teddy Roosevelt was the sitting president, jumped in there and said, no. We're going to do this, but we're going to do it right. And they put regulations on the game of football and made sure that it's still dangerous. It's never not going to be dangerous. It's football. But they put some regulations to make it manageable. But what's terrifying is I did a little research and I looked at the amount of injuries that we have in our sport, the amount of catastrophic injuries and deaths. When I'm talking about paralysis, life-changing injuries that we have in our sport. And the numbers we have right now, it's the same as college football when the government stepped in and said, hey, you have to do this or else. And what's wild is you don't hear about any of this stuff. Right now, if you're a professional racer and you go out there and you race 5 years as a professional, you have a 1 in 20 chance to become killed or a major life-changing injury. 1 in 20. So if you race professionally for 5 years, you're 1 in 20. That's not very good odds. And there's a series of factors that lead up to this. You know, back in the 90s, it wasn't that bad, but we were riding two-strokes. We didn't have paddle tires. The tracks were slower. You look at Loretta Lynn's today. Jacob Balmer was out there in that first race. Keep in mind, Loretta Lynn's is one of the tightest, lowest speed tracks of any across the country. It is known for being safe and slow. He averaged 40 miles an hour around that track. That's how fast the bikes are going these days. But in our sport, we have this crazy thing of it's always been dangerous. It's just the way it is. And we don't try and make safety improvements. They're not moving trees off of tracks because guys are going faster. They're just not doing it. And MX Sports isn't alone in hiding this. In 2019, Feld had the Supercross Futures at Monster Cup. There was a gentleman by the name of Connor Webb. He crashed and passed away at the event. We're on the way to the hospital right after he hit a dragon's back, landed, had catastrophic injuries, and passed away within hours of the crash. But since our promoters have blacklisted anybody who says anything they don't like, they don't want this information out there. So nobody heard about it. So poor Connor Webb passed away and it became a secret. At the time, I was writing for MotoX Addicts and I was like, wait, that's not right. That's the one thing about racers. We know it's dangerous. We want to do it, but we don't want to be forgotten. We don't want to be brushed under the rug. We don't want people hiding that we got killed. Like, those are the things that we want. And then you take those injuries or those deaths and you make changes to make it safer instead of just hiding it. The NFL got sued for hiding concussions. I can only imagine what the AMA, MX Sports, and Feld have done to hide the injuries and the injury statistics, not showing them on TV, the way they cut away on the red flag at Washougal and didn't even talk about the incident. It's disgusting, and I have no idea how they're not on the hook for a bigger lawsuit than what NFL got hit with. But it's the culture that they have cultivated. We're all so protective of this sport. Nobody wants to do damage to it because we love it so much. We're kind of weird that way. But we're at a tipping point. We're at that point where, I'll tell you what, if they don't do something soon and the government gets a hold of these numbers, and I am going to share them with the Trump administration. I have a direct line into the Trump administration. They love motocross. And what they were concerned with was the 501(c)(3)s and the way that they've manipulated the nonprofits to essentially steal all the money out of the sport. And you can say you don't have to like Trump, you can hate Trump, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. The fact is, they love the sport of motocross and they don't want people to steal from the riders, and it bothered them, and they're paying attention to these people using these nonprofits to steal from us and ruin the sport that they love and we love. And I'm not talking about any other politics other than our sport, the safety of our riders, the safety of our families, and the fact that there's a lot of theft going on and manipulated these nonprofits. It's pretty dirty what they're doing, and I'm sure glad. I can't tell you how happy I am that the Trump administration is actually willing to look into this. Maybe Trump's the guy to come in. Teddy Roosevelt, when he jumped in and fixed college football, it was a good thing. It kept the sport alive. Trump could be the Teddy Roosevelt of motocross. This is an amazing sport. It's always going to be dangerous, just like auto racing. Auto racing, after the death of Dale Earnhardt, they really stepped up the safety measures and started doing different things to keep the drivers safe. It's still dangerous. You can still get killed racing NASCAR and doing those things, and they have a fair amount of deaths, but it's nothing compared to motocross. And I remember when I was writing for MX Addicts and I talked to Dave Prater, I had a specific call with Sean Brennan, the Feld media manager, and Dave Prater. We did a three-way call, and I asked them about Connor Webb. I said, what happened? And they spun it. They pretended that they had like a memorial and something to honor him the day after he passed at the Supercross Futures. I had a bunch of friends racing. I go, did any of you guys at this event hear anything like that? Nobody did. They lie, they cover up, and that's the problem. And if you look at the rate that the danger's increasing in our sport, it's not long before it gets completely out of hand. If 2020 or Dateline or somebody gets a hold of these statistics, and they're out there, and I'm just doing this because they're already out there. It's not hard to find. But I want to get this before it's at a point where there's no return and they just wipe out dirt bikes. So as long as we have these guys running our sport like a bunch of mobsters, telling people what they can and can't say, what they can and can't share, and just taking all the money for themselves, they're not giving any profit sharing back to the racers themselves. They're milking amateur riders for every single penny. It's going to get worse. But like I said, we are at a tipping point where something big is going to happen, and I would like to catch it before it gets to that tipping point and fix this thing. We need to add some safety, change the tires, or at least start working towards it. You'll never make the sport safe. You just won't. It's a dangerous sport, and we know that, but it shouldn't be this dangerous. We can eliminate the stupid, and that's what they're trying to do with that Colby's Law in Massachusetts. Like I said, I do not want the government jumping in and regulating stuff, but if our regulatory bodies are making the problem worse, maybe that's the only thing we can do. I don't want to. I'm against it, but I don't know what else to do. If anyone has any other options, please tell me. Is there any way that we can get tracks to follow basic safety guidelines and some of the minor stuff that's in Colby's Law? Because once Washington jumps in and starts regulating our tracks, it could get really ugly. Like I said, we have to make sure if they're going to have a regulatory body, can you get us better insurance rates? Can you do something else to make it, to offset it for the tracks? Because they're barely surviving as is, and the last thing we need is to add more costs to them. So track owners, please weigh in on this. All right, that's it for now on the safety stuff, but I'm telling you guys, pay attention. They're going to have to they're going to have to work on this. We're going to have to figure out why and how basic safety is being completely overlooked, and how and why these promoters are stealing from the riders, the families, and using them in non-profits to manipulate everyone. That's the problem. Anyway, if you guys are shipping anything, use Precision Transport. That's pretransport.com, a family-owned shipping company that just does a really good job. If you work at a company in logistics, hit up Pre-Transport. They'll probably get you a promotion. Alias MX gear. This stuff's awesome. High quality, and you're not going to look like everybody else at the track right now. Right now, they've got a limited amount of product they're bringing in, so you're not going to see every other rider wearing Alias. So if you want to look cool and you want to be unique, go to aliasmx.com. So Roger DeCoster, he has stepped down. He has retired from the Des Nations. He has been the Des Nations team manager pretty much ever since the inception of it. He kind of got that program going. I don't think that we would have ever had the American domination that we had if it wasn't for Roger DeCoster. He has done so much for raising the level of American motocross, and I want to pay tribute to that. And now, like they say, with all due respect, I appreciate that he's stepping down. He hasn't done a very good job with the Donations team the last few years. I don't know that he's still in tune with the top riders and getting them together. There's been some basic errors as far as getting the USA team to win. I have a whole other set of issues with the Donations and how the fundraising and how they get paid for. But just going with complete competition level, Roger DeCoster hasn't picked the best teams. He hasn't managed them very well. There were some key mistakes in a couple of years that might have cost us the win. But it's like he's won enough, and that's why he got to stay as long as he felt like it. He was not going to get pushed out. The reason that our Des Nations team dominated for as long as we did, the reason American motocross hit the level it did, had a lot to do with Roger DeCoster. So Thank you, Roger DeCoster. You are a legend. You are an icon of this sport, this industry, as a rider, as a manager, ambassador. Thanks, Roger. And I'm sure Roger will still probably be at the races with KTM doing his regular thing. I don't think he's going to retire. I think he's a guy that's just going to work forever. But I'm glad to see him stepping away from the Disnations. So now to Loretta Lynn's action. I only watched about half of it yesterday. I went out to the lake. I couldn't help it. My buddy wanted to do an evening run. Anyway, I only watched the first motos, and I'm getting caught up on it right now. But man, Enzo Timberman has stepped up. I told you, there's something about Enzo Timberman. He's special. Sometimes you look at a rider and you can see they're just different. They're just built different. And I don't know what exactly it is, but I know it when I see it, and I see it with Enzo Timberman. I mean, he was at Washougal and got 12th place? Don't forget, Hayden Deegan, when he finished his amateur career and started racing pro, that was about the same results he had his first year as a pro. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Hayden Deegan, but Enzo Timberman, and he has not signed with Star Yamaha. Somebody said that. I'm like, no, he hasn't. I checked with them. They have not signed with Star Yamaha. I think he's still open as to what they're going to do. I'm sure they've got some options, but it's not Star Yamaha yet. And I'll tell you who has stole the show at Loretta Lynn's. Mela Heric and Hannah Jameson. These two girls, they're younger. They're running the littler girls class on minis. They are kicking ass. They are going so fast out there. It's crazy. They're both running in a boys class on the other one, and they're running up front, battling for podiums. That's how good these girls are. They are next level. Now, I've always thought that a girl could be as good as a guy on a dirt bike because you don't need a lot of strength to ride a dirt bike. That's one of the biggest things that people don't understand is you do not need a lot of strength to ride a dirt bike. You need technique and you need cardio and you need legs and hip strength if you ride the bike right. Women have all of that. The level of girls that's coming through right now is impressive. I love that they have a professional series they can strive for now. And I have an idea. SMX is 31 rounds. That's too many. So what we do is SMX is where you have the pros, 250 and 450. And then throughout the year, we sprinkle in. You do women's and 450s, and you get the 250 guys a week off. Then you do women's and you mix in the women and give the 250 or 450 guys a break every now and then. You don't do it at every round, but every once in a while, you give these riders a break and you let the 250 guys or the 450 guys sit out and rest. The promoters could have just as many races. I mean, basketball does it. That's what they do. Basketball, if you want to have this on the basketball, baseball playoff format, that's what they do. They have bye weeks. They have different things where they rotate it around the schedules. If you're going to treat it like that kind of a sport and ask our athletes to do that, you have to change the format. And then SMX will be where everybody meets up and nobody's getting a bye, nobody's off. That will be the finale, but leading up to it, we got to give these guys more breaks and let them recover. So yeah, unfortunately, some Supercrosses will be 250 and Supercross Futures. But what it will do is it will build a bigger name for those 250 guys. Because you know what? We're all still going to watch. The ratings might dip just a little bit, but not really. I mean, come on. It's just going to make bigger stars. And if we can build these women into stars, we got a whole new fan base, and I think it would actually grow for a bigger, stronger, more rested field, and everyone's going to make more money. Anyway, thank you, members. I appreciate everything. And if you have some thoughts on that, Colby's Law or Colby's Bill, please get them in there. We can still make changes to this. They're not dead set on it. The whole idea of this is not to hurt the sport, not to put pressure on tracks. It's to make a basic safety standard that everybody can follow. So I have some things that I wanted to change on it. Those are things that are highlighted in yellow, and I even jotted some stuff in there that I wanted changed about that part of the bill. But give me your 2 cents, and tomorrow I'm giving away Nano-Xtreme for July to one of you members, and then in December, one of you guys wins the new Power Sports XQi3 motorcycle. Damn, this thing's fun. Thanks, guys. Here's your member of the day.
Let's start this off by saying, we got them. The illegal sale of American motorcycle racing. I present a case that reveals how the American Motorcyclist Association's 2008 sale of its racing properties constituted an illegal transfer of public trust into private hands. My name's B. Maisie, and I'm here to stir shit up. So I made a song for you guys. It's crazy that the riders still gotta pay to race. Even though these guys are just filling their pockets because they're money hungry, greedy, stupid mother, ex-circus owners, but still got the same mindset for the Supercross. Screw Feld, screw the AMA, and screw Rob Dingman.